The weight of fate. Friends, have you ever heard the saying, "The fruits of one's deeds and the hand of fate can never be erased"? Every action, whether noble or wicked, leaves its mark. We may believe that no one sees us, but an unseen power watches over all. They say, "As you sow, so shall you reap." But do you truly believe this? Let me take you on a journey, one that might change your mind. In a quiet village, there lived a humble farmer named Peter. His world revolved around his wife and their modest life. One day, the couple set out to a distant city to sell grains. After their trade was done, they started their journey home. The path they chose was lonely and unfamiliar. As they crossed the border into another state, danger loomed. A gang of robbers emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden behind tattered cloths. The farmer and his wife were cornered, their meager earnings stolen, leaving them destitute. Stripped of everything, they stood helpless on the deserted road, fear gripping their hearts. With no money and no place to turn, they wandered toward the unknown city ahead. As despair threatened to overtake them, Peter noticed a small hut at the edge of the city. It belonged to a Buddhist monk who sat outside, delivering a sermon to his disciples. Something about the monk's presence gave Peter hope. Approaching with folded hands, Peter poured out his woes, desperation clear in his voice. "Wise monk," Peter pleaded, "if there is any way to help, I beg you. Mortgage my wife to some wealthy man for money. With it, I'll start a business, repay the debt, and free her." The monk, moved by Peter's plight, sent him to a merchant in the city. The merchant listened and, after some thought, agreed to the arrangement. Peter mortgaged his wife, took the loan, and set out to change his fortunes. Peter worked tirelessly, trading grain, and soon became a successful merchant himself. 8 months later, with his debts cleared and his wealth restored, he returned to retrieve his wife. However, when he arrived, the merchant's face darkened. "Your wife," the merchant said with a sigh. "She fell ill 3 months ago. Despite my efforts to save her, she passed away." Peter's heart shattered. Yet, with remarkable composure, he replied, "If that was her fate, so be it. Life and death are beyond our control, but I must repay my loan and cleanse my conscience." The merchant refused the money, saying, "I cannot accept payment for what I cannot return." Peter left, grief-stricken but determined to seek peace. He returned to the monk and recounted the tragedy. Listening intently, the monk's eyes narrowed. "Peter," the monk said firmly, "the merchant deceives you. Your wife is alive. He has either hidden her or sent her elsewhere. Go to the king, plead for justice in his court." Taking the monk's advice, Peter presented his case before the king. The merchant was summoned and confidently declared Peter's wife had died. He even brought witnesses, doctors, mourners, and cremators, all attesting to her death. Despite Peter's pleas, the king ruled in the merchant's favor. Defeated, Peter returned to the monk. The monk, now resolute, said, "The king has failed you. Return to him and demand that I, the monk, sit on his throne for 3 hours. Only then will justice be served." Peter hesitated, but did as instructed. Surprisingly, the king agreed, relinquishing his throne to the monk for 3 hours. As the monk ascended, a tense silence filled the court. The monk turned king, summoned the merchant and his witnesses once more. His sharp gaze fell upon the doctor. "Did you treat Peter's wife?" he asked. "Yes," the doctor replied. "And where is the record of her death?" the monk pressed. The doctor stammered, "There is none." The monk turned to the cremator. "Did you oversee her cremation?" "Yes," the man lied confidently. "Then tell me," the monk's voice boomed, "what rites did you perform? What symbols were used?" The cremator faltered, unable to answer. Piece by piece, the monk unraveled their lies, exposing the merchant's deceit. Under pressure, the merchant confessed Peter's wife was alive, hidden far away to claim her as his own. With justice served, Peter was reunited with his wife. The monk returned the throne to the astonished king, who praised his wisdom. And so, friends, remember, the fruits of our deeds may ripen slowly, but they cannot be denied. The trial of truth. In the court of an ancient kingdom, the tension was palpable. Peter, a simple farmer, stood before the king, his face etched with desperation. By his side was a Buddhist monk, a man of wisdom who now sat upon the king's throne, given temporary power to deliver justice. Peter's wife had been falsely claimed dead by a merchant, and now the monk-turned-king was unraveling the web of lies that had ensnared her. The monk's piercing gaze fell upon the doctor, the first of the merchant's witnesses. "Doctor," the monk began, his voice calm yet menacing, "did you personally attend to Peter's wife, or did the merchant merely take medicine from you?" The doctor hesitated, sweat forming on his brow. "Your Majesty," he stammered, "the merchant came to my dispensary to collect the medicine himself. I never treated the woman in person." The monk leaned forward, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "So, you cannot confirm the medicine was for Peter's wife?" "No, Your Majesty," the doctor admitted. The monk's tone turned sharp. "Then you dispensed medicine blindly without seeing the patient. Do you realize the gravity of your negligence? What if poison had been administered instead of medicine? Could it be that Peter's wife died because of such poison?" The court fell silent. The doctor's face turned ashen. "No, sir," he cried. "I would never do such a thing. My reputation, my honor would be ruined." The monk's voice thundered. "Reputation? Honor? You speak of these while admitting your failure to uphold your duty. For negligence and playing with lives, I sentence you to 50 lashes. Your face will be blackened, and you will be paraded through the city as a warning to others." Trembling, the doctor fell at the monk's feet, pleading for mercy. "Forgive me, I confess. The merchant bribed me to testify falsely. I never treated any of his patients." The monk turned to the king's soldiers. "Seize him!" The first lash struck, and the doctor's cries echoed through the court. Each scream sent shivers through the witnesses, 4 men who had claimed to have cremated Peter's wife. Now it was their turn. The monk's eyes fixed on them like daggers. "You 4, he said, "swore you took Peter's wife's body to the crematorium. Tell me, before the last rites, when the body was bathed, did you see her face?" The men exchanged nervous glances. One stammered, No, sir." The body was already shrouded. The merchant prepared it himself. The monk's voice cut through the air like a blade. "You mean to tell me you did not confirm if the body was truly dead? What if it was not a corpse, but someone alive, unconscious from poison? You might have burned an innocent person alive. For such a crime, death is the appropriate penalty." The witnesses, already shaken by the doctor's punishment, fell to their knees, begging for mercy. "We confess. We never saw the body. The merchant told us to take it to the crematorium, and we obeyed." All eyes turned to the merchant, who now stood pale and trembling. The monk's voice was low, but its weight was crushing. "Merchant, your lies have unraveled. Your witnesses have crumbled under the truth. Now tell me, what punishment do you deserve for abducting a man's wife, for deceit, and for betrayal of trust?" The merchant's lips quivered, but no words came. The monk rose from the throne, his presence commanding. "Before I sentence you to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment, I give you one final chance. Produce Peter's wife, or face the consequences." Panicking, the merchant ordered his servants to fetch Peter's wife. Moments later, she was brought into the court, alive and unharmed. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The monk turned to Peter, his eyes softening. Here is your wife. Take her home." Peter embraced his wife, tears streaming down his face. The monk then sentenced the merchant to 5 years in prison for his crimes. The false witnesses, too, received their due punishment. The king, watching in awe, approached the monk. "You have shown me what true justice is. Teach me your wisdom." The monk smiled faintly. "Remember this. A husband must never abandon his wife in 3 circumstances: when she is ill, when she is falsely accused, and when she is in the company of other men. To leave her in these moments is to invite disaster." The king and Peter bowed in gratitude. Justice had prevailed, and the truth had been revealed in the most suspenseful trial the kingdom had ever seen. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, imagine the countless thrilling tales we have in store for you. Don't miss out on the next jaw-dropping mystery, life-changing lesson, or heart-pounding adventure. Hit that subscribe button now and become part of a channel that loves suspenseful stories as much as you do. Let's embark on this journey of justice, wisdom, and unforgettable narratives together. Your next favorite story is just a click away.